if we go over to Mark Carney's conflicts of interest that he declared, we're going to notice two things that are a little curious.
It's almost midnight as we record this because, to our knowledge, we're the first ones breaking this story. Mark Carney held a long-anticipated press conference in Terrace, BC, announcing the next wave of so-called major projects. But when the Canadian press asked why his government was fast-tracking a project owned by an American company, Carney's answer was long and vague and raised even more questions than it solved. We found the real answer.
In Canada, you're not going to like it. Let's take a look.
Canadian press.
Thanks taking my question. So there are some documents show the assets of the Western LNG will be owned by the U.S. Company, Western LNG. Why did you decide to prioritize an American-owned project? Thank you.
Well, there's three aspects to this project. There is the LNG liquefaction, what's called liquefaction or export facility, which will be off Paris Island as the current plan. There's the pipeline, where there is and there's an associated transmission line that is independent of the northern North Coast transmission line as well. And there are different ownership structures for the various aspects of the project. All aspects of the project are necessary for the project to move forward. And in those regards, there are different ownership structures, as I say, including with significant Indigenous ownership. And there is support that because they're connected, there is support. It's not universal, but there is support for the project. There is also, I'll just underscore, there are always also opportunities for adjustments for ownership structures if that is appropriate, and the federal government stands ready to facilitate those if that's appropriate. Thank you.
Okay, so when I first heard this, my first reaction after he finished his answer was, what? What the heck did you even say? She asked why you fast-tracked an American-owned company's project, and your response to that was, well, there's different aspects to this project. There's three different aspects, and there's different ownership groups, but all three aspects are necessary for this project. And ownership structures can change, and
Ownership structures can change?
So, what does that have to do with the price in tea in China? Since you were there in China the other day, so. This answer got us thinking, what is going on here? And we've seen enough of Mark Carney and his body language now that we can tell when he's surprised, annoyed, and none of the above, meaning he understands exactly what's being said to him. This was one of these scenarios where it was not a surprise to him to hear somebody say that this company was American owned. And we started wondering, okay, what's the real answer to this question? So, we started digging, folks, and here's what we found. Ladies and gentlemen, this is off of the British Columbia government's website. So this has to do with this project that was just greenlit. Now, this is the Silas Sims LNG natural gas liquefaction project overview document. And it goes on to describe, this. It says the Nisaga's Nation, Rockies LNG Limited Partnership, keep that one in mind, folks, and Western LNG LLC, yada, 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 yada. And it goes on to describe what this project is. The section provides information regarding the project, its purpose, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so that was on page 1. This is page 2. Now, this just goes to show what the general overview of this project is. It gives the timelines, the different phases, that sort of thing. So that's kind of the outline of this. And you also see Rockies LNG again, and we're going to get into that now. This is at the top of page 3.
Rockies LNG is an Alberta-based partnership of Western Canadian natural gas producers, including Advantage Energy Limited, Birchcliff Energy Limited, Canadian Natural Resources Limited, and Murphy Oil.
So we're going to stop there. Now, just keep Canadian Natural Resources in your mind. Okay, so we know that Rockies LNG is a conglomeration of a couple of different companies that are in partnership together. Canadian Natural Resources Limited is one of those. So now we're going to move on to another document we found, and this one's pretty important.
So this document is titled Significant Investment in Western LNG Funds, Silas LNG, and PRGT Projects to FID. This is a press release dated January the 14th of 2025. On December 30th, 2024, Western LNG LLC, also called Western, completed a private placement of equity securities securing over $150 million in commitments. This funding fully supports the remaining development activities for the Silas LNG and Prince Rupert Gas Transmission PRGT projects through a final investment decision, FID, expected later this year. Together with prior private placements, cumulative investment in support of these projects has reached more than $265 million over and above the investments in PRGT made by its previous owner. The private placement was anchored by a commitment from Blackstone Energy Transition Partners, an affiliate of Blackstone Inc., or Blackstone, New York Stock Exchange BX. With over $1.1 trillion in assets under management, Blackstone's participation underscores investor confidence in the viability and strategic importance of Silas LNG and PRGT. Quote, Blackstone's anchor investment in this private placement demonstrates its confidence in the Silas LNG and PRGT projects and confirms that our approach to delivering responsible, net zero ready energy infrastructure is aligned with market demand, end quote, said Davis Thames, president and CEO of Western LNG. Quote, Silas LNG and PRGT are designed to meet or exceed Canada's rigorous environmental standards and will help meet global energy needs while driving regional prosperity. Western LNG remains committed to working closely with regulatory agencies, Indigenous communities, and local stakeholders to ensure transparency, environmental integrity, and shared benefits. Blackstone's support positions us to proceed towards a final investment decision for Silas LNG and construction of both projects, end quote.
So why are we talking about this company, Blackstone? Well, it's interesting. It's interesting that this investment from Blackstone came in December of 2024. This was right before Mark Carney decided that he was going to run for the leadership of the Liberal Party and aka become the Prime Minister of Canada. It's also interesting in here that it says that they're expecting a final decision for the investment to be made later this year. Well,
It's later this year?
It's later this year. This press release was in January. Very interesting. Now, what makes this interesting? Why are we caring about Canadian Natural Resources and Blackstone? Well, there's a very, very, very good reason for that, folks. Because if we go over to Mark Carney's conflicts of interest that he declared, we're going to notice two things that are a little curious. So, this is just one page of the many pages of Mark Carney's conflicts of interest where he declares what shares he owns. And if you look closely, folks, this is what we find. We show he has shares of Blackstone Group Inc. and shares of Canadian Natural Resources. So, ladies and gentlemen, the answer to the question that the Canadian press posed to Mark Carney is, why did you fast track this project that was owned by an American company? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's probably because Mark Carney stands to get rich from it. Because he has shares in companies that have invested a lot of money into this company and therefore into this project. So if this project gets greenlit by the Prime Minister's Major Projects Office, guess what? Mark Carney stands to see his share values go up.
So much for that ethics screen.